Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Happy Sunday. I just got home from setting up at a local show here in Connecticut. Came right in. I unload. I usually don't even unload the car when I get in on Sunday. I wait till Monday. Unloaded the car, fired up all the equipment to get ready for this episode, to get it done early. So tonight I can sit back and enjoy my Chiefs game, Sunday Night Football. Two shows this weekend. I walked the Plainville show on Saturday, Plainville, Connecticut, and I set up at the Danbury, Connecticut show today. Usually September shows around here anyways are pretty busy. We got football seasons in full swing, and even though the weather's nice outside, local shows, people will usually come in. It's like drive-bys, right? They'll come in, spend an hour and go. Some people travel a little bit further, but they're usually pretty busy, like a constant traffic, most of the time. I think people are done with vacations and you know, even if you're doing yard work or whatever, it's like a trade-off. It's like I'm gonna hit the show for an hour and then come back and do whatever, or I'm gonna do whatever and hit the show. When I first started, I worked on Saturdays, with my own business, so I just scheduled my hours around being able to attend local shows. But lately, I've noticed these last few weeks here in September that traffic has been light at all the shows. Traffic has been light at all the shows. And I talked about, like, in the summer when it's usually, where it usually should be light, that the shows were busy. It looked like they were ramping up. Like, I was saying, wow, this is crazy. Like, and I wanted to secure my spots at these local shows to, moving into September, because people are, like, excited to be out, excited to hit these shows. But now all of a sudden it just seems like quite the opposite. Um, Saturday I was at Plainville, and my guy Tom, at Hudson Fan 15. Um, while I was there, he said, "Hey, I've got some cards for you," but he was dealing with somebody. I was like, "Cool, I'll hang out, I'll wait." Right. And shout out to him. Right. I appreciate people. They pick up cards and they think of me first. Right. Cards that they know that I would like or appreciate or certainly want to buy, and give me a first shot at them. And that's kind of what this was. It was, and I'll share them with you later. It was two women basketball cards. So I was just kind of hanging out, letting him take care. He had a couple customers that he was talking with, let him take care of, those customers. And while I was waiting, uh, two separate people, came up with flyers for brand new local shows here in Connecticut. Not one, but two. And before I left the show, somebody else handed me another flyer for another show. So local show, I'm there hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at a local show, and within that time, I get handed flyers for other local shows, two of which I know are brand new. Um, Today, I was set up in Danbury, Connecticut, and the proximity there were 3 shows going on today, 2 in Connecticut and 1 in New Jersey. And, being in the hobby, you see where people are going and what they're saying and what they're doing, and they don't even know. I'm getting messages. Should I go to this show? Should I go to that show? What show are you at? Where are you set up at? How many people are there? How does the show look? Take a video. Like, they don't even want to make the trip unless it looks good over there. Like, it's like, prove that this show is good if I'm going to get in my car and go there, because I've got all these other shows I can go to, right? And I posed the question, are there just too many shows? Are all these shows diluting the foot traffic for all the shows, right? Is there no communication among promoters, or is there just not enough Saturdays and Sundays in a month? Because it's not only for attendees, right? It's for dealers too. I mean, you can't have a show without dealers. Can't have a, I should say, you can't have a successful show, right, without dealers, and a successful show without attendees, without people showing up. And I know people local to me that I always would see at a local show, and sometimes twice on a weekend, one on a Saturday and one on a Sunday, because there was only 2 shows to go to locally on those days, right? On any given weekend. But now, all of a sudden this year, it's like an overlap of an overlap of an overlap, right? 3 shows in Connecticut today on Sunday. 3 shows. First of all, you think it's got to affect the promoters, right? Because dealers that would normally, like if I wasn't at one show, I would have normally set up at another show. So you're forcing dealers to make decisions between this show and that show, which ones to set up. And really the situation favors the attendees, right? And as much as it favors the attendees, it hurts the dealers. When you consider, travel costs, cost of the table, time spent, you got to get up early, got to travel, you got to get somewhere, you got to set everything up and get ready. And it becomes discouraging if there's not a lot of foot traffic or you're not making a lot of sales. Uh, it, no matter how slow a show is, I always seem a way to spend money, right? To buy cards. Whether it's from other dealers or it's from people coming in. But I know people are getting discouraged. I know there's dealers that are getting discouraged with, all the competition of all these different shows and just diluting where people can go. Like, how many shows can people actually go to? Um, I think there needs to be better communication. And now I'm talking locally, right? But I've talked to a number of people about some of the bigger shows, and they've noticed the same thing. They've noticed, a lot lighter crowds at some of the bigger shows too. And I know I mentioned this on a couple episodes, and I mentioned this when I've had people on and had discussions, and how they felt. But you think about where we started in the summer, and I'm just going to go back to the end of June. We had the Chantilly show, right? And then we had the Nashville show, and then the Dallas show, and then the National, and then Fanatics Fest, East Coast National, um, Fishtown show. Well, that's really not a large show. That's a big show, but not as big as, say, Dallas or Fanatics Fest, things like that. But it's just one after no. The other one I was thinking was Burbank, right? Or there was Burbank. I mean, it's just one show after another show after another show. I mean, I know it's got to become exhausting for dealers to try to keep up to go to all those shows. But what about attendees? What about people who want to travel to these shows? And it just seems by who I'm talking to, and on both sides of that table too, because I'm talking to people now that's normally set up in Dallas who are saying to me, "Hey, if you ever want to, table in Dallas, I've got space at the show, and I always have space available now." When the Philly show was coming last week, the Philly show was there. I had a number of people reach out to me to say, "Hey, do you want table space? I've got open space. I've got a booth, or I've got tables, available." Um, I know a couple of the shows that are coming up, Hofstra and things like that people are already reaching out to me like, "Hey, I got tables available." So I think too on the dealer end of it too, I think, maybe people are stepping back. I know there's a lot of expense, and I think that's the big part of it. And I know I feel that too. If you're going to a show and you're going to travel and stay overnight and you've got hotel and food and, the cost of the table and just the travel expense by itself. I mean, you want to have a good show. You want to show up and you want to see the place crowded and making sales and things like that. And if you're not, it's tough. It makes for a long weekend. And like I said, I've noticed a number of people I've talked to have said the bigger shows, they're starting to notice lighter traffic at the bigger shows. Where does it go from here? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it goes. If we see some shows, either try to spread out and say, look, I'll do this month and you do next month, or you know, on the local ones anyways. But the bigger ones, I just think they're, they come fast and furious. There's one or two big shows a month that you can travel to around the country, and it's a lot. It's a lot, and I definitely think it's starting to dilute the market a little bit. I know myself, I have 3 more shows booked this year, right? I have one next week. I have Mohegan Sun next week. I have Mohegan Sun again. That's the 2-day show I have in November, and I have somewhat local, a 1-day show that I'm booked for in October. But then I'm not sure. I'm not sure, I'm going to attend the shows, but I don't know if I want to commit to being a dealer at some of the shows. It may be easier for me to be able to travel in and travel out and do that without committing for a 1-day or 2-day or a whole weekend, something like that. Um, I know next year I reserved tables in February at the Nashville show. Now, from what I read online for that show, that's 850 tables, right? It says 850 tables for that show. Um, I would have to imagine there's a lot of, available tables. I would find it hard to believe you could sell 850 tables, but and I know I just got, well, not just recently, but I know they just announced Fanatics Fest. There were tables available at their Orlando show. Um, and I want to say that was November, the first weekend in November. But I don't think it was the Fanatics Fest. I think it was just the Fanatics card show. It was a little different than what was set up in New York City. But for myself, I really want to wait to see what the trend is with the local shows and the larger shows. Don't get me wrong. I love going to shows, and I'm at shows almost every weekend. Obviously, I'm here with the content every week, talking about the shows I'm going to. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work when you're setting up, and it's a lot of work before you get there. Some of the things rolling through my mind now is I'm trying to bring my inventory down to a minimum, right? 2 cases just to show up with a Zion box and 2 display cases. Because it's a lot of work, getting ready to go to the shows. It's a lot of work at the shows, and then afterwards, it's for me to get back and I've got content to create too. So it's a whole process. Try to limit the amount of work I'm putting in on some other things and spend more time, putting the things that I enjoy, like the content, doing this. Even though this is work, this is fun to me. When I think about bringing my my inventory down, I start thinking I'm only 2 or 3 months away from starting to buy for football again next year. And that's worked out well for me. You go back the last 3 seasons and listen to what I'm doing. But the end game on that needs to be a table at the National. I mean, that's where the goal would be, and I don't know how realistic that will be again this year after losing it last year. So it's something we'll have to wait and see what happens there. And the release, the release of the WNBA, it's another thing I've talked about that I want to be involved in. That obviously it doesn't come till after the season ends, right? So are people going to be that excited, or I mean, the stuff I'm buying now, these women's college stuff that I'm hoping, I don't expect them to be as popular as Caitlin Clark, but I'm expecting the market to be, somewhat good come the NCAA, the January, February, March, when they get into the home stretch heading into the into March Madness. So one can only hope, right? You never know for sure. But tell me what you think. I mean, are there too many card shows? I know there are here. I'm telling you. But how about where you are? Is this just a Connecticut or a Northeast problem, or is this happening all over? Um, I know I'm going to hear from a lot of the guys, that a lot of listeners that say, you know what, oh, that's a terrible problem to have too many shows, because they live in states that don't have shows, or very few shows to attend. Um, Even last September, October, November, I felt there were a good amount of shows. Right, I didn't feel there were too many, because every show that I set up was a lot of foot traffic, well attended. Um, the small local shows, the medium shows that we do, here in Connecticut, or I should just say the Northeast, because there's a bunch of Massachusetts shows that I do too, but they were well attended. The crowds were good, sales were good. It was well worth what we were doing. What I was doing. This year, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. Um, this year, I find myself making decisions. What show am I going to set up at? Am I going to set up at this one? Am I going to set up at that one? And then I, I commit to one because I'm looking at my schedule. And then if somebody else changes the date of one, then, I'm left telling the other person, oh, I can't do it. I've already committed to something else. Right. So then I have to start, deciding what I want to do. Maybe if I wasn't setting up so much, it would be easier for me to travel, to all the different shows, and, you know, be on the attendee side. Um, but tell me what you think. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about all these shows. And is it happening where you are? Are you starting to see a lot of pop-up shows and overlapping and show competition, different promoters having shows on the same day, not very far away? Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Pickups. I mentioned my guy Tom had 2 cards for me. I picked up both of them. Um, the Angel Reese, I'm just going to hold up if you're on YouTube. The Angel Reese Sapphire, uh, Bowman U, first Bowman, numbered to 199. And the also Bowman U, first Bowman, Paige Becker's, the Wave. I think it's Ray Wave, they call it. This one's numbered to 100. So shout out to my guy Tom. Appreciate you thinking of me with those cards. Today's pickup at the show, that I was happy to have some pickups today. Another Bowman U, Caitlin Clark. I really haven't been buying much of her stuff, but this came to my table. Somebody was trying to move it. It's SGC 9.5. It's the the first Bowman, the base. The price was right. I picked that up. I picked up a Bryce Young mythical, and I know what you're thinking. Bryce Young, he's not even playing. But again, the price was right on this. This card looked really clean. So I'll keep it for now. We'll see what happens. And this was a big boy I picked up. CJ Stroud, downtown. Don Russ, downtown. I picked this up today as well. Again, the price was right on it. And interesting, you're at a show that doesn't have much foot traffic. People are coming in to sell. Um, I think they're a little bit more motivated. I have to say this right. I know a lot of people show up, say, I don't need money to show up to a card show, right? I just need a few cards because I'll go in and sell them and then I have money. And I think that plan has worked for a long time. And I think it works on, a well-attended show. And I think it works if you get there early, right? And you get dealers, wanting to buy or ready to buy. But what happens when you show up at a local show and nobody's really had that good of a day? They're still going to sell the cards, but I think what happens is that someone like me who's not at the front door, right? I'm not getting a first look at it, and I think it benefited me today that somebody was like, finally, like, yeah, you know what, let's and I did this with a package deal with somebody else and said, you know what, yeah, let's just get it done. Let's make a move. And I want the money to spend on something else, right? I want to kind of like what I talk about. You want to move something to, you know, build some capital to spend on something else. And I think the prices were right today. I felt good about what I spent on the cards, and yeah, I think I'm going to do well on them. Next week on Saturday, actually Wednesday's show. I always say Wednesday. I don't know why. Thursday's show. I have a guest on Thursday. Next Saturday, I'm setting up at the Mohegan Sun show. And next Monday's episode, I plan another unique collaboration. And that'll come along with the recap. So that'll be next Monday's episode. I have a few exciting, couple episodes coming up. And I'm excited, and I hope you are. I hope you'll enjoy those episodes. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.